You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to the Successful Screenwriter Podcast, where we discuss anything and everything screenwriting. Here we interview successful screenwriters and filmmakers to find out just what it takes to make it in the industry. Just a heads up, this episode is brought to you by my book, The Guide for Every Screenwriter, which has been listed as one of the best screenwriting books of all time by the Book Authority. If you're looking for something that reveals the secrets of screenwriting in an easy to understand and engaging way, then this is the book for you. You can find The Guide for Every Screenwriter at thesuccessfulscreenwriter.com/books. Now, on to the show. All right, welcome to the podcast. We have on a great guest today. Waco Lin is a screenwriter and author of Crazy Screenwriting Secrets: How to Capture a Global Audience. Thanks for being on with us.
Well, thanks for having me, Jeff.
All right, so real quick, what is the origin story of what brought you to writing this book?
Writing this book wise, I immigrated to the States when I was 8 years old from Taiwan. So I was 8 and I grew up in Los Angeles, California. And, as an immigrant kid, I didn't know any English. It was interesting. I was a shy kid. Obviously you stay silent and you're assimilating. You just don't want to rock the boat. And I think my junior high school teacher, who was an English teacher, but also our theater teacher, goes, "Hey, you want to be in our play, Wizard of Oz?" I'm like, "I barely speak. You want me to musical, right?" And then it was just like, he just thought I was a shy kid. What a great teacher. And then after that, I found my voice. I was able to act and parlay, and it was wonderful. I was the mayor of the Munchkin City, Wizard of Oz. And from there on, I was a lead in our, following year in our musical. So I went from there. So that's where I kind of discovered storytelling in some ways, through acting, but, in a school level. And I did, plays throughout high school. And then I went to UCLA for English major. I was a creative writing major, and then we had some playwriting classes, and I just accidentally went into a screenwriting class, not by accident. Like, "Oh, I like movies. Oh, now we write for the movies." We did plays. So kind of just like, going through it.
Yeah.
A man named Lou Hunter, who kind of founded the MFA.
434. Yeah.
434. And
yeah.
He is a big inspiration. And I'll know for this, obviously, I teach, right? A lot as well. I remember going to this class. It's very legendary. So there's 8 people in the class. I was the only non-major, which was like a big deal back then. Oh, you can't get into here unless you're a major. He let me in for whatever reason, just like the junior high school teacher did. Whatever he saw that was potential that get me out of my shell or something. And I will never forget this. He would every day, he does the same thing all the time. He has a whole bag of basically figurines from all around the world. So, it could be like a tourist thing. But it's always a cartoon character. It could be a monk or a Buddhist, but they're all it look like they're storytelling. There's figurines.
That's cool.
100 over on the table. And then just said something to the effect these are storytellers of the age, and we're a community of storytellers. And the way he talked, he doesn't talk like he's very nice and so stuff. But I'm like, but he was like that. I just don't remember. I remember just seeing a moment I want to be him. What I want to do when I grow up is to be him. I didn't know what he was. I know he wrote shows and, shows that I've seen before back in the, 80s. But I just love the teaching. So ever since that, I was inspired, teaching and writing intertwined in my writing life. So long-winded origin question to the book, but because of the teaching, so I've been teaching for almost 19 years, where I continuously major institutions, from, not majors, just higher education, from Northwestern to UCLA, Emerson College. And it's basically, so that came to the book was, I just thought, oh, well, I've been teaching, just put it in another book. And, I always feel like screenwriting books, people always say oh, wow, there's so many books. We're all pretty much talking about the same thing, really.
Yeah.
It's just how you do it. And then, so perhaps the way the same thing they're talking about, maybe I'll connect with certain people in a clear way, hopefully in a humanistic way. And that's why I read the book.
No, I think that's absolutely right. I mean, it's what your perspective is on screenwriting that might line up with somebody else's. And, that person might hear it 50 different ways.
Yeah.
But when they hear it from you, from whatever reason, it resonates. And I get it. I've written a book as well. And you just never know who you're going to touch and who you're going to reach with that book. So I read the book. I really enjoyed it. And what grabbed me first about the book is because you and I actually talk about the same thing. So you said write what you know, but that doesn't necessarily mean occupationally. You have a great twist on writing what you know. You come from an emotional perspective, and I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because I always say, the first thing to say, write what you know, right? Whether occupation or your
Yeah.
biography, how you grew up. I mean, but that's pretty much 2 screenplays max, right? 2
Right.
screenplays max. So how are you going to keep doing that for a professional career, right? You got 2. Okay, I'm done. So
Yeah.
obviously you can't sustain that, that way. And I just think it's a good way to get started. So you're tapping in. It's good to write the first few things about yourself because
Yeah.
that's what your story is easy to kind of handle. How you're gonna, you have scenes in your head, recreating that. But at the end of the day, I think the idea is from that experience to tap in like the emotional stuff that you're let out and what works for you emotionally, because that's the voice, I think, of different writers and different voices.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, you have to tap into those kind of universal truths that we all experience in our own unique ways.
Yeah.
And I just love hearing you talk about it that way because it'll help open up someone's eyes a little bit when they're reading the book. And from there, you're discussing concepts. And I love this question you ask when someone is, I'm probably going to steal this when I teach, when someone is coming up with a concept. Yeah.
Please do.
You have them ask the what if question. And I think that's a great way to kind of get the ball rolling on creating an idea.
When you start with what if, it's coming from a very day-to-day stuff, right? Day-to-day experiences, but that's not dramatic and that's not exciting for a movie, right? Like I think one example is like, oh, what if, when I was a kid, we ran and played a construction site.
Yeah.
Right? That's very normal. That's not a movie, right? That's not a movie yet, right? Oh, so that's real life experience, right?
Yeah.
What if we saw a cop murder somebody? What if
it's great.
Gets kidnapped?
It forces the writer to really open up to the creative experience. And I just love the way that you put it, because it got me thinking about a script that I wrote a long time ago that actually did really well on the first festival circuit. I wanted to write a zombie script, right? Because everybody had one. So I was like, I'm going to do it.
A zombie script.
So I was like, I want to do a zombie script. I want to make it original. And I remember asking myself, what if they were hipster zombies?
Yeah, there you go. So you did the what if.
So I did the what if they were zombie, and they craved people because people were non-GMO, they were gluten-free, people were free range, right? So then I did that, and it was really fun, and it was a great experience. So yeah, opening up that kind of leads to that creative process. I think it's a great way to simplify that and take the pressure off of coming up with an original concept. And then you were talking about when you're writing something, you took a little bit more of a serious tone and discussing like, what would you die for when you're writing the script? And I was like, wow, I haven't seen it put that way before.
But I think everyone always struggle, like, what am I going to write next? What's the next thing I'm going to write, right? And life is so short and predictable. So I think it forces 2 questions, I think I've come to a point where, after, as we grow older, right?
Yeah.
Loss, you experience how short life could be, really.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So 2 things would you like. One is just like, I don't know what to write. I have so many ideas. Well, if you have one, you can die. Die for 2 ways. One, meaning you're literally die. What's a one script? Before you die, what's a one thing that's going to be great for you to, and 2 is what will you die for in terms of what message? Like, what do you want to say?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What do you want to say in this? And I don't mean to be all dramatic, so it's serious, but I know when I say you can say great in a horror movie, Get Out. That's a horror movie, isn't it? I mean, it's saying something, right? It's definitely saying something. So it could be horror, it could be comedy, it could be a popcorn, tentpole movie. But what is it that you want to say? And I think that's really important.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And it's risk for a writer to do that because they have to be so vulnerable emotionally to allow themselves to open up into diving into that topic. And so I think there can be a little bit of hesitation, a little bit of fear with writers who are trying to create that almost, I don't want to say legacy moment, but that script of raw truth.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, you have to be brave enough to go, okay, I'm going to put everything I can into it and make sure that this is worth something. Yeah.
I love what you said there. Most writers don't admit, like, I can't put my emotional stuff, which is shocking, right? Because your writer, isn't it? The point is to be open with your thoughts. And well, I think people just think, oh, my thoughts, but they don't think so much of writing is also from the heart. And to be honest, I didn't tap into that emotional stuff. Like, so, what kind of one of the steps that helped me kind of, go into the world was, I was a Nickel finalist, and it was fine. And then I sold my first project after that, and I got representation. Yeah. But my writing wasn't, whoa, it wasn't like that. But shortly after that year, it's like this, that year, my mom gets diagnosed with lung cancer, terminal lung cancer. But she would pass a year and a half later. Through that loss, I remember I went away for like a year to go write a play where I first started. And I didn't care about it. So basically what I'm saying, I did this emotional vomit, like just basically grief. And to this day, I feel like that play sample is my strongest sample. And it does go out for open writing assignments in that respect. Yeah. But it was really from an honest place of just gut wrenching, just like, and I wasn't doing this to like, oh, well, you to exploit it or anything. It's like,
no, of course not.
I needed to just think. But then to this day, it's been 14 years since the passing, but it's still fresh as it was yesterday. So that's been my emotional engine, everything. So many of my stuff, whenever I have a project, whether it be original or some project that I'm thinking jumping on board, I was like, is there a grief and hope thing that I can, because that's my engine, but that's where emotionally I'm always at. I can always go there,
Right.
That's my pain. It's also my feeling that my mom's around, so I think it's whatever works for people. So I'm not saying it's sad, to have emotion. You could be a joyful moment. What's the most joyful, what's the most jealousy moment? I don't know. You're always jealous person. Use that jealousy. Whatever that emotion is, that's you every day, most of the time, I think. And then it's going to pop.
Whatever your unique expression is. I absolutely agree with you. But I mean, I admire your bravery to be able to take that pain and put it to the written word, and it will find an audience because of that. Whether it gets made or not, it's being read. And that's that right there not only, beautifully honors the memory of your mother, but it will hit somebody who's dealing with the same similar type of loss. Wow. I'm really moved by that.
And I wanted to share one more thing, I want also writers to think about. Often we think about samples like, oh, what a way, I'm running sample, it's not gonna get made. But
one more sample.
Yeah, but think of samples as a piece of yourself.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That piece may not get made, but it shows you like, this is who you, and that's what samples are, right? They're used to potentially get to write something, to get brought on to a project, right? Here's a piece of me that shows.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
That can be complementary, or it could be like, this is what this project needs, this piece of myself.
I love it.
But don't think of samples like, because people's like, write a new sample. And he's like, no, I want to write when it gets made, but don't think of that way. Like, you're writing a sample is a piece of yourself. So whatever that may be. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I really agree with that. For some reason, I feel like this is a very philosophical episode. Like, we're getting into our feelings and emotions, but
I do. Yeah.
Well, let's roll that into your book. So you break down kind of the anatomy of a character, and I thought this was really interesting. You talk about most non-American films fail to connect because the central character doesn't change.
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting because I agree with you. I think a character does not have to grow and become a better person. I think a character just has to change in a way.
Yes. They have to arc. It's almost like we go through this entire journey and the character is like identical at the end.
Yeah.
What was the point of that? Yes, we saw this experience of a story.
Right.
Remember, we're connecting with the character. And I think that's what American film, I want to call it global film, because this is the kind of thing that the whole world is used to.
Yeah.
You watch more American films than we do any other film, whatever, what country you're from. So we're familiar with that kind of art, and we've grown to identify with that and latch onto it. So I think that's a very signatory thing. And also real life, people rarely change in some ways, right? Right. So you're getting that hope. right? You know, giving that hope that we could change.
Even
We
if
could
the
be stronger.
even
Okay.
if the change is like you start out one way in your arc, and then by the end of your arc, you realize who you are as a person, whether that is flawed in
Yeah,
some particular way, that's still a change because now you know, oh,
yeah,
I'm actually not a great person. Whereas at the
yeah,
beginning, you thought you were this awesome,
yeah,
God's gift. So
exactly.
it could be something subtle like that.
Or impact on another character. And that's another
Yeah.
thing. You arc to a point where you're giving hope to another character. And I always like to use a Leaving Las Vegas example. Have you seen that film?
Oh yeah, come on, man.
Nicolas Cage. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah.
His goal was like, I'm an alcoholic. I'm gonna go drink myself to death. Sorry, giving it away. He drinks himself to death, right?
He does, yeah.
But
Powerful.
then, well, that's a very low down. But Elizabeth Shue's character, you saw her that she's gotten not directly, but you can say that she's talking to her therapist, and insinuating talking to the therapist. You insinuate that she kind of left her pimp, whatever the one that's controlling her.
Yeah.
You felt like this actually made a difference, and I think that's the end of it. Did this journey make a difference?
Exactly. There's tragic beauty in that, but that's the type of arc that can really hang with you
Yes.
and have you contemplating it for a couple of days.
Yeah.
I saw recently Everything Everywhere.
Oh,
All at
everything. Yeah,
Once.
everything, everywhere, all at once. Yeah, I just saw it too.
God,
Whoa.
I laughed, I cried. I haven't seen a movie that took me on that wide range of a dramatic and emotional journey in a long time. And they nail it. I mean, they take you everywhere from the central character. You don't like her because she's not nice, but then you watch her grow and change, and the whole family aspect to it it's just
I didn't think I would be emotionally moved at the end because it was so crazy, right? It was quite bad.
It was nuts.
Everything. And like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to connect emotions because we're just like everywhere, like the title. I mean, that's
exactly.
They told you what it's going to be about, so everything and everywhere all at once. That's exactly they told you. They delivered the
and then they threw in like experimental filmmaking stuff that you would usually find at like an indie film festival. They're throwing in this multi-million-dollar big blockbuster. So I just thought it was brilliant. But that takes me to antagonists. So you talk about antagonists, and the most effective antagonist is the demented version of the protagonist, which they did in this film that we're talking about. But I love that because you don't really hear that. You always hear, oh, they need to have conflict, or they're two sides of the same coin. But when you phrase it that way, that they're demented, that tells you right there, of course, that they're hero of their own story. They're just conflicting. The protagonist happens to be in their way. I love it.
Right. Yeah. No, like the warped version of that character. Like it's almost the same, the two sides of the same coin, right? Because the two sides, but it's usually the warped version of the protagonist. So at the core, you can go boom. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Skill set and same, but you just do a different. You're the warped dark version of that.
And they understand each other fundamentally.
Yes.
That's what I really like, is when an antagonist and a protagonist understand each other, but their methodology is so vastly different.
Exactly. How often have you heard like, you and I are not so different? It's totally cliche. It's cliche because it works. It's what it is. You and I are no different, right?
Yeah, but you look at Shang-Chi, right? So if you look at Shang-Chi, like him and his father, I mean, what a great conflict there of opposition. But fundamentally, they have the same goal.
Exactly.
It's great. Well, I'm kind of running out of time here. I can keep you for a whole hour. Let's get to a couple more. One thing, I actually picked this up when I was reading your book because I was dealing with this with one of my clients the other day. And I mentioned to them, like, everybody agrees in the script.
Right. Oh, man. Yeah.
That's a big problem.
Yeah, it is. It's like I always say this. Don't have a scene where, oh, do you like black coffee? I love black coffee. The scene is over. It's over, right? There's no.
And you're done. There's nothing there.
I love steak. Oh, me too. Because I love steak. I'm a vegetarian. Then we got something to go on, right?
Right.
So
never have characters agree, or you have to kind of twist it a little bit so that it builds into conflict somehow. But
absolutely.
I love that you mentioned different managing companies in the book, because that's so hard for writers to kind of figure out where to go with management. I thought that was awesome. But this book is also about, capturing the global audience. And I know one thing you focus on is with China and
Yeah.
talking about inclusion. Do
Right.
you feel right now that China is still a viable market with everything that is going on?
Yeah. And, like anything with trends, right? Like what's viable, what's non-viable. Netflix again. Recent news of some. Oh wow, is that a viable? I mean, so
Yeah,
many things. It's so like these are kind of. I think these are moments. Of course, it's a very challenging time, whatever situation is. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a vibe. It's going to. You can't ignore the world's now the largest market in the world, right? Still, right?
right.
Box office wise, think about streamers, right? From Netflix, Apple Plus, HBO Max, and they're all doing a lot of local language productions, a lot of
Okay.
co-productions from all around the world, right? Because they're obviously financing these. They're going to be the global kind of television
Yeah.
station, if you will, or platform,
Oh,
and we think about it, there are a lot of Mandarin language speakers in the world who lives outside of China,
sure.
right?
Yeah. More
Every
market.
year, students from China go abroad, like a million, I think, to study.
Wow.
How many subscribers? That's a million subscribers a year, right?
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
they go back to China, even though there's no American streamers doing business there, but I think when they go there, they bring their VPNs, and they're watching them. They're keeping their subscription. So if that's the access, so I just think the world is because of technology is disruptive, but yet it's opening up possibilities of
So instead of big theatrical releases, we're thinking more
yeah.
streaming. Okay.
Absolutely. But that's access, isn't it? And then the
Yeah.
ones that do get in, they can always acquire those things for theatrical too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because it's they can see. So I just think there's a lot of opportunities.
No, I think it's good. And I think in the book you cover a lot of the things that helps get a script marketed in China, like, censorship and all of
Yes.
those things like
Yeah.
that, which is great because those quote rules can be kind of evasive when writers are trying to figure out what is a good script to try and market over there. So I think
Yeah.
it's
And
definitely changing.
yeah, and I obviously I talk about the greater China market simply because that's who I am. That's where my roots are. But it's really
Yeah.
good to have the perspective and sensibility. Like when you work with a French company, when you work with a German company, I think
Yeah.
so often from a very Americana perspective, we go and it's like, this is how it's done, the American perspective, right?
Yeah.
But learn just like you have to be sensitive because at the end of the day, it's a partnership because they know their market, they know their audiences better than, right, quote unquote, the Americans do. But by
Right.
partnering up, what you can do is you can deliver those things that connect with the local audience, which is obviously doing like German movie or
Right.
series. You want to connect with the German audience. But it's just basically by having the sensitive things to be aware of culturally. Because in the book, I talk about the Chinese culture, I talk about
Yeah.
things are sensitive. Is to be aware of what's sensitive and what's works and what's connect, what's viable, what's vibrant with that territory. But then what we come in is, as we know structure in terms of we know the
Of course.
global structure. So, and that will give the German film life outside of that, right?
Yeah.
Accessible structure, narrative structure that the world is familiar with. And I think that's exciting.
Hey, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter by using my handle @ScreenwriterPod. And if you liked the show, please support it by subscribing and sharing the episode on your social media.